So I haven't really done this sort of video before. I don't like to comment on anyone else's work or how they do stuff. It's not really my place either way, and I honestly feel like the only thing that's really important is that you are having fun and that you're being creative and that you're doing things the way that you like to do them. But when it comes to soldering, I've been suggested privately when I'm watching other things on YouTube, a certain kind of YouTube shorts and video compilations on how to life hack soldering, and I'm just getting kind of tired of seeing it, and so I just thought, since I haven't seen anyone else talk about it, that I would. But before we begin, I just want to say that I don't want anyone to go and be mean to whoever's making these videos. There probably are a lot of reasons for why people are making this sort of content, and it's not really my place to tell people that they're wrong for making that, because I'm pretty sure it's, you know, a third world sort of thing, and I don't want anyone going somewhere and being mean or you know, doing something bad. So please don't do that if you're watching this. I just don't think that these sorts of things are necessarily good. If you find that I'm showing you something now that you actually think is good, then you can go right ahead, and you can use those life hacks if you want to, but they are all unnecessary and kind of silly, in my opinion. And so I'm gonna just go through them here with you now. But you know, I don't know. When it comes to soldering, it's a really simple and easy thing to do. And if you are worried about learning how to solder and you look at these sort of things that I'm about to show you as a way to make it easier for you, you don't need that. Soldering is really not that hard. If you think that this is some sort of mountain, it really isn't even a hill. It will take you 5 minutes to learn how to solder, I promise you. The hard part about soldering, or I don't know even if I should call it hard part, but that the thing that is a challenge, I suppose you could say, is keeping your habit of how you're working consistent, so that you're cleaning things off, for example the soldering tip, and that you make sure you're not heating up ICs or something like that too much, or that you're making sure that you're getting a good connection and not a cold joint, that you're using flux, you know, all those things. I've talked about these things in other videos, and this video isn't really about that. So I just want to say that soldering is not that hard. You obviously gonna have moments when you mess up or you make a mistake, but the soldering in itself is super easy to do. If you're, for example, on this channel and you're into music, I imagine that a video like this might potentially get some viewers that are into something else, but making pedals or building guitars, doing the electronics for those parts, it is not as hard, and it's not that difficult to learn how to solder. You don't need to buy solderless kits or anything like that. Those things are not necessary at all. You can definitely learn how to solder, and if you just give it a little bit of practice, build some easy things. I have some videos on great DIY first pedal things that you can build, and you can check those out. And I try to start every year off with an easy build. If you've never soldered anything before, I promise you, those are so easy to do that you can definitely do those. But anyway, I just wanted to say those things, and I just want to say that, like, I realize that there are people on YouTube that are making things to try to make it seem like they've come up with a way to make something that is hard super easy, so that they'll get a bunch of clicks and likes and comments, and they don't care if they get good comments or if people like what they're doing. They just care that people are commenting, because they're just playing the game of the algorithm. I don't think that's a very fulfilling existence on YouTube, but you do what you gotta do. I mean, I imagine some of these channels are making their living this way, and that's another thing. So I just, you should be aware of these sorts of things and what's going on. So yeah, I just I don't like to see it, and I don't. Never mind. I'm starting to ramble. Let's start this video up and go through some of these that I just kind of feel are silly, and I'll just talk about them a little bit. I'll try. I have my computer here, so let's start up with the first one. Okay, so the first one here, he's burning one of those knives that you cut mats with, and he's making it into a way to strip the plastic. They are all super short, as you can see. And yeah, it's just, I mean, it probably works. So if you want to do it that way, you can do it, but it's probably not necessary. I can see this potentially work if you need to have a knife that has multiple functions and you're doing a small little thing that you can score wires with. But there are pliers that are made for this work that you can get, will do a better job. You can also use a scissor and just sort of score the plastic. There are a bunch of ways. This is, I wouldn't really necessarily say that this is a life hack, but it's not even, it's not that bad either. But yeah, you have to be careful also so that you're not doing it in a way that, you'll hurt your hand when you're doing something else with that knife. And if you do it in a way that the knife is only good for this, then it's not really worth doing. And the next one here, he is splitting a wire with a screw. Again, it will most likely work, but it's also just meaningless. Like, take an entire board, drill a hole, drill in the screw. It's like more work than just either, using a scissor to cut around or just using the right tool, which is a wire stripper. There are a bunch of different wire strippers, and you can just, get a piece of wire, go to the store, and experiment and see which one you like. There's so many different versions of that. So it's another one of those that it's not a life hack because it's taking this thing and making it worse than, actually doing the thing. It would be easier to just, not do it that way. And here he's using one of those that are for pipe cutting, and it's just, again, I mean, obviously if you have the tool and you have to cut that thick wires, I suppose it would work, but you might as well just use a scissor or something else with a cutting blade, or a wire stripper. And then here he is putting a blade of some sort. I don't actually really know exactly what tool that is, but it's again the same thing. Like, you have to have a board, you have to clamp down the board. Like, in that case, it's much easier. You just take a scissor and just score the plastic. It's not a life hack to make it harder for yourself. Like building this thing and then never mind. And here you can see is making a thing out of a hinge, which is also just like another way of just making it more complicated. It's not easier to first have to build this weird tool that is not going to do a very particularly good job than just taking a scissor and just, and like you don't even have to buy a particularly good scissor. Like, if money is the issue, you can just get the cheapest, crappiest scissor that you can get, because it's not gonna matter. It really won't. So it's just another one of those clickbaity, stupid little things that honestly isn't good. And here, now we come to the thing that I really don't like, because this is actually the thing that I've seen that I really don't like. And this is the kind of thing that I'm worried about that will be stupid enough to maybe potentially like hurt you in your, not hurt you as in physical pain, but this is not good is what I'm trying to say. And it's the fucking, sorry, but I really don't like it. So melting, I assume it is solder, and twisting the wires together and dipping it in it, and then dipping it in some sort of plastic to cover it up. It's just not. Look. I just bought new solder, Here it is, and I think it was $28 or something. Solder is expensive, like it's not, you know. And here he is basically taking like 1/3 or 1/4 or something like that, maybe 1/5. I don't know. He's taking a lot of it and just wasting it, putting it into a hole he drilled into a piece of wood so he can dip 3 wires. If he had just put a little bit of flux on it and then just put a little bit of solder on it, but that's, you know, I don't actually know why he's doing this. I mean, I know he's doing this in the video just to show that he can do it, but it's just super stupid, and you're wasting your solder. It's the same thing, I think we'll see it later, putting a little cup on your soldering iron where you can melt things and then dip your wires in. That's so stupid. It's the worst thing ever, because I promise you, the amount of solder that you see in this video right here now, that is more solder than I do on an entire pedal build that he's just wasting to solder 3 wires together. It's so bad. I'm getting a little bit angry. And then he's just putting it in some sparkly thing, and it's probably nothing. It doesn't add anything, and it's just probably so that someone will comment. And it's one of those things that I also don't like doing bad things and showing you something wrong so that you will comment and tell him that he is doing something bad, because bad comments are just as good as good comment, and I hate seeing that, because it's not true, and it's probably just like glitter for like kids crafting or something. Yeah, here is the one where he's just like that. It's not that much solder in that one, but it's still an incredible waste. Like, it's just so stupid, wasting so much. And here again, this one I suppose isn't that bad, because he's just clamping a wire between 2 little clothespin. Is that the English word, clothespins? And I mean, it's not good, because there are tools that are made to do this and that are going to do a better job, and they're going to hold the wire more securely. And it also looks a little bit on the upper one like maybe it's hot glued in place or something. Like it looks a little bit wonky and weird. I'm not going to delve into that, but it's another one of those, like it's not bad, it's not going to work, but it's just sort of like, why spend the time and effort making this when there are actual tools to do it? And if you want to build something like this, then getting better things to hold your wires than clothespins are probably the right way to go. At least I think so. And the next one is drilling a hole through a nut, and yeah, this is all, again, you don't need to do it. It's such a meaningless way to do. Just dip your wire in flux and then just put a tiny little amount of solder on the wire, and it will be good to go. Like, the solder will go into the wire and become part of it, and it will look good. You don't need to make this weird tool. Like, the solder will go into it. It's such a backwards understanding of how it works, and it banks on you not knowing how the solder and the flux and the wire will react when you put them together. Like, he could have just put the solder on the wire and held the solder to it to melt it together, and it would just suck in and become one solid thing. He didn't need to drill a hole through a nut and make a little funnel for it. It's just... And here he's bending a wire around some sort of plier, and then he's screwing it down with a nut, and then he's putting some gross things over it. And I mean, again, another one of those where it's like you can just twist them together, you know, like wires that you don't have to solder together to get a perfect connection. you can either just take one of those that you screw them in to each other, either one that you screw from the top or with actual screws, like the one you'll see in the box on the next video. But you don't need to do these extra things where you're like trying to like build a weird thing for it. It's not a life hack if you have to do 5 extra steps just to get 2 wires together when you could just have twisted them together. Like, it takes 2 seconds or 3 seconds if you're slow to twist 2 wires together. The only reason why you would have to like secure them down or something like that is if you think that the wires are going to get pulled at. But if they're not, like, they're not going to come loose. And if you're building something, for example a pedal or something like that, you would solder things together, so you wouldn't have to use a fucking nut to. And here he's filling it up with something, some resin or something. Again, very, very, very bad idea to do, because the whole point of those connectors, and this is not guitar related, it's, you know, for when you're doing wiring in your house. But the reason why you have those connectors is so you can screw down and screw on the wires, and you can hold them in place. And if something happens, you can just untighten them, or if you have to change something, or it's an easy connect system. If you fill it up with resin or whatever this is, then you're gonna have a horrible time fixing that. I promise you. Like, imagine if something breaks and you have to take this apart and you've filled it up with resin and you have to sit there. Either you have to just cut the wires out and you have to put on new wires and redo the things. If you look at the black thicker wires, you would have to put in a new box that it fits there instead. Or you would have to sit there and chisel out the epoxy and break it apart and like hit it and destroy it so that you could get to the wires. And so it's just a really, 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 really bad idea. And if you're building this, for example, to be outside or something, because he has like bricks of some sort around, then there are boxes that are supposed to be outside. There are electrical boxes for wires that you're gonna have going in the ground or something like that. You don't have to fill a box that is not for that purpose with resin, you know. And it's not like those boxes are like so expensive that if you can only afford the other one, like either you can't afford neither of the boxes, or you can afford the correct box and you can just buy the right box. It's the last one because I found this compilation and I just thought I'd go through them, but I hate seeing this. And now I need to calm down, because in the beginning I wasn't bad, and I was like, oh, let's be diplomatic and talk about this in the right way, and let's not be mean to these people. But now I understand why people are getting angry, because I'm feeling it. I'm sorry. Yeah, look, there are 100 ways to do the same thing or whatever, you know, like there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, but never do, because cats are awesome. They're the best. You know what I mean. But these steps that I showed you here, I hope that at least, my goal isn't to be mean to these people, and I hope no one thinks that I am, but my goal is to say that, like, if you see these sorts of videos and they're confusing you, and it makes you worried about learning how to solder, or it makes you think that this is harder than it is, it's not. And these videos makes me confused too, because I seriously don't understand why they're doing things this way. They're making something that is very simple and very straightforward into a weird mess, and it doesn't have to be. You have to have a soldering iron and some solder. It's a good thing to clean your tip, because otherwise you're gonna have to replace it, and getting a new will cost money. And if you are good at cleaning your tip and you're doing it every time you're using your soldering iron, you're not going to have any issues with it, and you're not going to have to. You can have the same tip your entire life if you're good enough at cleaning it. I've had to waste a couple of tips because, you know, you learn, and that's the way it is. But they're not that expensive, and they're not such a big deal that your life's over. If you ruin a tip and you have to replace it, it sucks, but just get a new tip. Having some flux is good. I'm not going to tell you that it's necessary because I've done a lot of soldering in my days without flux. But it helps, and it's a good thing to use, and it's good especially when you have parts that are sensitive to heat and you need to go in quickly and put on solder and then get out of there, you know, fast. Having wire cutters like these, for example, that you can cut things with are a good idea. I can't get it to be in focus. Having wire strippers, here are the ones that I would use if I used them. This is an old vintage one that was my grandpa's, and that's why I'm using it. You don't have to use that. I have it for sentimental reasons. For the most, I actually just use a scissor and I just score the plastic around and pull it off. It works fine. I know it's probably not the best way of doing it, and I know that someone's probably going to tell me that I shouldn't be doing it that way, but it's... You just put solder on the wire, and then there you go. You know, it's a little bit more difficult when you're dealing with capacitors and resistors and transistors and those parts, but it's not a lot. So I'm going to calm down now. I hope this helped. I hope that if you're worried about learning how to solder, that you will understand that these videos are making it more complicated than it needs to be, and it's really not that hard. I've had comments from people telling me, and maybe they're trolling, but I've had people tell me that soldering is a skill to learn and it takes years to master. And maybe they're right. Maybe it takes years to master, but it definitely doesn't take more than 5-10 minutes to learn how to be good enough at doing it so that you can build your own guitars, pedals, amps, whatever else you would like to build, you know. So, you know, and creating your own circuits is not a part of this. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the physical, actually knowing how to solder. That doesn't take long. So it's not hard, and you can definitely learn it. I don't care how old you are or how young you are or where you live. If you think you're smart or if you think you're stupid, you're not stupid. You can learn how to solder. And with that, I just want to say thanks so much for watching. Stay awesome and cool, and go and solder. But don't use these weird life hacks because they're not made. These videos are not made to help you. Find people that are actually interested in helping you. Those are the kind of channels that you should be looking at when it comes to things, and not the clickbaity trying to get your attention and waste your time. Okay? So go and practice soldering. You can just wire a couple of wires together, or you can build a pedal kit, or you can look at one of my videos if you want to. I have some about easy pedals to make for beginners, and just, you know, have fun. If you decide to have fun, even if you make mistakes, you're not failing because you had fun doing it. And I'll see you hopefully in the next video. Bye bye.